Welcome to Vast Online. In this session, we're going to review Point of Sale Section 3. First out of the gate, we're going to be taking a look at our inventory adjustments. I'm going to go over to our left-hand vertical menu and look through our inventory with the open box, and I'm going to go over to our inventory adjustments. So in this example, I ended up seeing a particular tire that I have in stock, and it shows the incorrect quantity. So through inventory adjustments, this is where we would actually go through, make that adjustment, whether it's adding inventory, taking inventory away, and applying a reason code as to why that inventory adjustment is being made. So first off, we can look for a few different things here. We can actually use a manufacturer code, a product number, or even a search size. In this case, I know the product code. I'm going to go ahead and type that in, then click on the magnifying glass off to the side. And that's going to come up as a 265/7017 Goodyear Wrangler SRA. So right now, it shows that I have 5 on hand. If I really have 10 of these on hand, I need to make an adjustment of 5. So in this case, I'm going to add 5 to our inventory, which is going to be the adjusted amount. And if I click down into an open space on our screen, the next item that pops up is going to be this asterisk, and this is going to end up being a reason code. So these reason codes are ones that we've added into our demo system here. You can create as many different types of reason codes that you would like, and do know that those reason codes actually will go over to a general ledger code. So then that way, when it goes back over to your accounting system, it will know that there was an adjustment made and hit the correct general ledger code. So in this case, we're going to say this was just missed in our last count. And now if I click on Save, up here at the top, I have a message that shows our manual inventory adjustments have been successfully saved. So if I need to make an adjustment to remove some inventory, I'm going to use that same product code again. So now it shows that I have 10 on hand. And if really I have 8 of these, what I would end up doing is actually put in a negative quantity. So in this case, what I'll do is I'm going to take away 2 out of our 10 that we show on hand. And it's going to show us that our adjusted quantity will be 8. And I'm going to put in a reason code, just missed in count, and then click on Save again. And if you want to print a copy of this, you can always click on Save down at the bottom. This is going to show us our adjustments have been successfully saved. Then click on Print Preview. And this gives us our last product adjustments that we just made for today. So we had 5, we added 5, now we have 10, and then we took 2 of those away, which leaves us 8 on hand. I'm going to click on Cancel to get me back over to our main menu, click on our Home button. Next up, we're going to look through everything related to our purchasing of stock items for our store. Again, I'm going to go back over to our inventory box here on our left-hand vertical menu. And then I'm going to go over to Purchase Order Manager. When Purchase Order Manager pops up, we always have our 2 default choices here to look at different purchase orders. Ones that are either created, and maybe we're waiting on these to actually be finalized or sent over to the vendor, or ones that we have on order that we are needing to actually receive once those products come in. Also 2, we have our PO creation date, so it automatically brings up the last 4 weeks. But if you wanted to move a date range out for whatever reason, you can go through update your from and to dates, then click on display down at the bottom. And now we have a lot more of our purchase orders because it's not just the last 4 weeks. In this example, it's going back to the beginning of 2021. So if you want to narrow it down by a specific vendor, you can type in vendor here, then click on your magnifying glass. Maybe a purchase order that has a particular product number or a certain account code. And then also too, whether it's anything that you want to take a look at that's either received, back ordered, voided. You can go through and choose all different types of filters that you want to apply. The only thing you need to actually will do after you do those is click on display down at the bottom. So in this case, I don't have any voided purchase orders so far for this calendar year. But if I want to create a new purchase order, so I'm going to order up stock replenishment for some tires, what I'll end up doing is down at the bottom, I'm going to click on this Create PO button, and it's going to ask me who is my purchase order going to be to. So our purchase order is going to be over to Tire Hub. So I'm just going to type in tire, click on our magnifying glass, and I have a lot of different vendors that come up with or that have tire in their name. So I'm going to choose Tire Hub and click on Select. In a purchase order creation method, the default is manual entry. These are just adding in products one by product code. If we've set up some recommended quantities or basically our stock levels, we could go through a creation method that way. Product sold would be any items that you have sold from a particular time, but we're going to go with our manual entry option right here. I'm going to click on Save. And that brings us over to our purchase order entry screen. So we could type in a manufacturer code, a product code over here next to manufacturer, or even a search size. So I'm going to go back and use my tire that we had previously used a manual inventory adjustment against. And I'm going to look up that product record. And it shows right now that this is that Wrangler SRA. We have 8 on hand, we have 4 on order, but we have 5 committed. Our recommended quantity or our stocking level has been set to 20. We could go through here and say, well, we've got 8 right now, but 5 of those are committed. And that leaves us 3 with 4 on order, which is 7. So we would need to order up 13 more of these to get over to our recommended quantity. Nice thing is too that up here we have some information on our product sales. So we can see in a current month we have not sold any of these tires, but the previous month we sold 6. Previous 2 months we sold 0, 3 months, so on and so on. So this ends up giving us a really clear snapshot of how this product is actually moving. But in this case we're going to go ahead and order up 13. And my current manufacturer cost is going to be $109 each with an FET of $1.30, which gives us an extended cost of $1433.90 just for this one line. And if you want to add some additional items to your purchase order, you can go ahead and type those in here. Again, we want to make sure that we find that product code in our inventory. And here's a 205-5516 Assurance Comfort Tread Touring. So maybe there's a special going on with these tires and I want to order up 4, and I know that the special is maybe $20 off. So I can go type in over the unit cost, which will update our purchasing price for all 4 to $246.96. So with these 2 items together, it should give us a grand total of $1,680.86 with an FET amount of $16.90. We're ordering up 17 items total, and this gives us a weight of 563.24 pounds. If I want to, I can click on Save, which saving that will actually go back through, generate a purchase order number for us up here at the top. Once I choose our Created option here and update our display results. So here is my vendor of Tire Hub. Here's my operator code, and it shows it is just created. At this point, it's just that. It's been created, but we have not actually said that these items are on order. Now, if I don't want to make any changes to this or additions, I can click on this line and go to our review option. And if I wanted to add in some additional items, I can actually click on our add line, which would give us an option to type in another product. In this case, Assurance Fuel Max. It shows that we're -1 on hand. So I'll go ahead and order up 4 of those, which will then go through and update our purchase order totals up here up at the top. So by saving, I can always go back and add or edit any of the items within that purchase order, or even delete a line if I wanted to. If I wanted to delete a line, I can just click on the X in the circle, and it's going to give us a confirmation of, are you sure you want to delete that product from the purchase order? You can click on Yes. Then that removed it from our purchase order. Our line item button, this is a quick way for us to be able to go through and update our minimum recommended order quantity. So that recommended order quantity, again, think of it as your stocking level. That's going to end up being something that right now, at least for this item, it's 0. But what I can end up doing is actually update this quantity, click on this Update Recommended Quantity tick box, and click on Save. The default is that this will be saved for 1 year. And after that 1 year, it will actually go back and put it down to a 0 for its recommended quantity. But you can always go through and update that. Previously it was 0. But now it shows my current recommended quantity is 4. If this purchase order is complete, we don't need to add any other items to it. We have a couple of different options. We have Post and Transmit or Post and Print Preview. Post and Transmit will allow you to actually electronically send your purchase order over to the vendor chosen. Keep in mind that you have to have that vendor in your system as an electronic vendor to be able to send this purchase order across. Otherwise, you can click on Post and Print Preview. It's going to give us a confirmation. Here's our purchase order number, the date that it was created, our total, our vendor information here on the right-hand side, And some additional information we could actually type in here if we wanted in our comment section, a requested shipping date, requested carrier that you could add in if you wanted to. But one of the biggest things we want to do is make sure that our post checkbox has a check mark in it, because this will then take our saved purchase order and moved it over to a posted status, which then we can receive against once that order is actually delivered. So I'm going to click on Save. That will post and give us a print preview. Here's our print preview for the purchase order itself. Again, you can actually email this out, make a copy of it, and click on Cancel. And now our PO choice is still just looking at created. It does not give me anything newer than 4/23/2021. But if I move it over to a PO choice of on order, and then click on display down at the bottom, it's now going to show me our purchase order over to Tire Hub. So now that we've posted that moves it to an on order status, which then when that order comes in, we can actually receive against it. So I'm going to click on Cancel, which takes us back to our inventory menu. So we've created our purchase order through our purchase order manager, and we posted that, which actually moves that over to a on order status. So now that order has come in, we want to go receive those items into our inventory. Again, still in our inventory menu, I'm going to go down to purchase order receiving. And this will bring up a list of any of our purchase orders that we can actually receive against. We could look for a particular vendor if you wanted to. In this case, I'm going to go look for Tire Hub. Maybe it's between a certain date range. You can enter those here. And our type of purchase order, is it going to be one for stock, which is be our purchase order? Or is it going to be an outside purchase order? So here's my order that we created over to Tire Hub. The PO number ended in 366, our date and our time, and our status. So this is the one I want to receive against. And from our purchase order receiving, it automatically brings in my operator code, or received by here. And if this is a multi-page purchase order, I could type in a product code, and that would allow me to go straight to that line where I can put in our received quantities. We've got a few options when it comes to actually receiving in these individual line items. You can actually click on this enter received quantity manually, and you can go through and update individual lines if you wanted to, or receive by exception, which automatically populates our received quantity with our ordered quantity. If for any reason, maybe we only received 11 of these instead of the 13, we can still go through and update a quantity, which gives us an outstanding amount or a back-ordered amount of 2 in this case. Our reason code, maybe it's back-ordered, and it's already accepted this line, which is our building our invoice total amount down here right above this quantity on order box. And if on your purchase order, maybe everything came in, you can just click on accept all, which that'll put a accept in every single box, but that automatically is going to put a check mark in these accept lines, which builds our invoice total amount. We had 15 tires come in. Again, we're going to leave 2 on back order. And if you notice that this line is not asking us for a reason code, that reason code only came up because we have 2 of these tires that are still going to be outstanding or on back order. And the last item would be to enter in our vendor invoice information, so that way it creates the payable back over to our accounting system. So if I go down to vendor invoice at the bottom, this will allow us to put in our vendor invoice information. So the items with asterisks, again, are going to be the things that we need to add in to be able to close out our vendor invoice or our purchase order. Paid by, it's already defaulted over to our vendor payment, and I want to ensure that our invoice total is $1460.26, which it is. If I click on Save, and now that I click on Save one more time, it's going to give us a warning box. In this case, it's going to end up telling us that we ended up having a couple of back orders, just a confirmation that we want to proceed. I'm going to click on Yes. And here is a copy of our goods in receipt. So originally we ordered in 13, received in 11, which put the other 2 back into our back order, which gives us our reason here. And then we ordered 4 and received 4 of our Comfort Tread Touring. You can go through an email or print a copy of this. I'm going to click on Cancel. And now it's going to ask if there are any other purchase orders that we need to receive against. In this case, there's not, so I'm going to click on Cancel, and then Cancel again. And just real quickly, I'm going to go back over to our Purchase Order Manager, and I'm going to go back over to our received items. I'm going to deselect our Created and On Order, click on Display, and it's going to show that this has been fully received, and it shows our created date and our received date. Keep in mind, once a purchase order has been received, you cannot go in and modify anything on that purchase order, whether it's items received, quantities, pricing. Once it's finalized, it's finalized. There are no adjustments that can be made. If you do need to make any adjustments, using the manual inventory adjustment option would probably be your best bet. Now, what if we ended up actually having more items in stock than what we actually really need, but I'm going to end up doing a return back those stocking items. So we created a purchase order through our purchase order manager. But if I want to actually go through and create a return, I'm going to go over to our purchase order return, which lives under our inventory section in our vertical toolbar. I'm going to click on purchase order return, and it's going to ask us a few things. It automatically defaults with any purchase orders that have either been fully received or partially received, and from the last 4 weeks. Again, we could have it automatically go through and show us the last 10 purchase orders, perhaps, within a particular date range, a start and an end date. We can only create a purchase order return off of something that was originally created and received in as a purchase order itself. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to return just a handful of tires from our Tire Hub purchase order that we had earlier that created and finalized. That was numbered 366. I'm going to go ahead and click on Post. And it's going to ask me, would you like to return all parts from this goods received notice? I'm going to go ahead and click on No. And I'm going to type in my product code of the items that we're going to return. And I'm going to click on our search box. This was our Wrangler SRA. It's going to ask for an RFR, or a reason for return. And I can end up saying the customer canceled. Maybe I had a customer who said they were going to be coming in to have some of these put on. They never did. I received 11 of them. And in my quantity box, this is going to be the number that I'm actually going to be returning. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that I'm going to be returning 5. My cost was $109 each, with an FET of $1.30, and it's going to give us an extended cost of $551.50. If I had any other items to return, I can click on our product number box up here, type that in, search for that. But in this example, we're only going to return just this one line. No different than adding in our vendor invoice information to be able to finalize a PO. I need to put in my credit information from our vendor to be able to finalize our purchase order return. Anything that has an asterisk, again, are going to be items that we have to fill in to be able to finish this out. I'm going to type in my vendor credit number here. And paid by is going to be vendor payment. And our credit total is $551.50. I'm going to click on Save. And to finalize this purchase order return, I'm going to click on Save again. Now our return receipt confirmation box pops up, letting us know that we are returning 5 of these items back to the vendor. They were $109 each. And I can email this, print a copy of it, and that way we have a confirmation that this was finalized. I'm going to click on Cancel. And cancel again. The next item we'll cover is going to be an outside purchase return. So still through our purchasing submenu here under our inventory, I'm going to go over to outside purchase returns. And maybe I'm going to end up returning an item that we ordered in specifically for a customer's vehicle. So like in our other screens, anything with an asterisk are items that we actually need to put some information in. So I'm going to create this outside purchase order return over to my vendor of AutoZone. And it's automatically found AutoZone. But what I need to do is actually add an outside purchase order where we originally purchased that part to this outside purchase return. So that way it picks up some of the original information, pricing, original invoice number. So I'm going to click on Add PO down at the bottom. And it's going to come up automatically to anything that we've ordered today. So we've got a handful of different options, maybe anything in the last 7 days. And again, this is only over to our AutoZone vendor. So this would be vendor by vendor. Maybe anything in the last 30 days or from a particular date. Or I could type in a purchase order number. So if I knew I needed to return something from purchase order 363, I can type that in and it will find that purchase order with 363. So this was originally received on 5/21 at 11:16 a.m. and it's $38.99 if I click on Select. If I had multiple items on that outside purchase order, they would all be listed here and I could pick and choose which ones I actually wanted to send back to the vendor. So in this case, there's only the one single line. I'm still going to click on that and then click on Select. And that brings it over to our outside purchase return window. So it's going to tell me I'm returning a quantity of 1. My unit costs $38.99, which gives us a total credit amount of $38.99 that we are owed back as a credit from our vendor, in this case AutoZone. One thing to keep in mind is anytime you have a return, it's still going to be a positive quantity and a positive dollar amount. The system knows that because it's a return, it's understood you're going to be taking something away. The only areas that you actually would end up adding in a negative quantity within Vast Online would be maybe a return on our document screen for a particular work order, maybe giving a credit back, or if you're going to be making a manual inventory adjustment. Otherwise, if there is a return in the menu, it's understood it's going to be a return, so you don't have to put in a negative quantity. All right, so this is the item we're going to go return back to our vendor. And what I need to do is put in our vendor credit information. If you notice, I cannot actually click into this reference number box. I need to click on vendor credit, which brings up our box where we can actually enter in our vendor credit information as well as a paid by. So I'm going to put in my vendor credit information and paid by. In this case, I originally paid for this by vendor payment, so I'm going to return it back on my account as a vendor payment. My credit total is $38.99. If I click on save and then save again, it's going to give us an outside purchase return has been saved message up at the top and a copy of our outside purchase return where we could either email or print a copy for our records. And click on cancel and cancel again. That takes us back to our inventory menu. Another way to actually return some items without referring back to the original purchase order is going to end up being under our stock returns option under purchasing. Under stock returns, so in our stock returns, I'm going to go ahead and click on create stock return down in the bottom right hand corner. And it's going to ask me for who our vendor is. In this case, it's going to end up being Tire Hub. And now I can just go through and type in product codes in a return quantity. Because it has return in the menu title, I just need to put in a positive quantity. So I'm going to return 2 of these back. There's no core, gives me 220 for this line. I'll type in my next product code. I'm going to return 4 of these. And notice that after I typed in my quantity, my reason for return box now has an asterisk in it. So before we do anything on a finalization of the stock return, I'll need to click on the down arrow and just mark this as maybe defective. So my return total should be $547.56. And if I have a customer that walked in, I can click on save, and that will just save my progress that I made here. But until we add in our vendor credit information, this is when we're actually going to be able to finalize this stock return. I'm going to type in my vendor credit information, how it was paid by, and confirm my dollar amounts and click on save, and then save again. Our stock return of 28 has been successfully created, and here is a return receipt back to our vendor Tire Hub for 2 Wrangler SRAs and 4 Assurance Comfort Tread touring tires. So the difference between a stock return and a purchase order return is a stock return does not require you to look up your original purchase order. A stock return is nothing more than just plugging in some product codes, putting in a reason for return codes, ensuring that our costs are correct, and those quantities would be removed from your system. I click on cancel, cancel again, and I'm actually going to click back on our home button to get back point of sale screen. During our parts entry, which I'm going to actually go over to our inventory menu here on our left-hand vertical toolbar, I'm going to go through to a quick receipt, and enter in my vendor information. Anytime we end up having a product receipt, you'll probably end up seeing a has core column and a core cost. If you do have an item that has a core, whether it's a stocking item, maybe like this battery as an example, we'll say we received 2 of these. Since this is a product that's on our master table, we understand that this does have a core, no questions asked. If we need to update our core cost for some reason, we can go through and do that. But if you're receiving in an alternator, a remanufactured item in some way, shape, or form that does have a core, you can always click on this core line and then enter in your core cost. That'll put your core into inventory. I'll finish out our vendor invoice. Click on Save. So I just added not only 2 of our batteries into our inventory, but also 2 of our cores. So here's a goods in receipt. And here's our core value of $12 per battery. We received 2, which gives us a grand total of $24 in cores. I'm going to click on Cancel. In our menu structure, we have a core return option underneath Purchasing, but I also have it too from our home menu. I do have an option for core returns here as well. So I'm going to enter in my vendor again for Napa. And it's going to show me that I have a handful of invoices that I could actually return a core against. So our default is to show our cores on hand. In this case, each one of these invoices, I have 1 core that I can actually return against. So I'm going to say that I'm going to return against this one individual invoice right here. And if I wanted to do multiple cores all together, I could do that. But I'm going to choose just this one line. I'm going to click on Save. And what this will do is it'll temporarily take that core, reserve it over as a core return. And here's a copy of our core returns report. I still need to go in when I receive the vendor's credit invoice and apply that credit invoice information back over to our core return. So if a couple days elapse, I can always go back over into my core returns to post my vendor credit invoice. Then what I'm going to do is actually look up a return date. I'm just going to click on this little magnifying box here. But I have a few options, either ones that were created today, 7 days, 30, or from a particular date. I'm going to take this return number 31, click on Select. What we'll need to do is, if the vendor gave us a full credit on this, we want to go into our quantity credited box, and I'm going to update that over to a 1, which when I do that, it opened up our core return amount of $12 here. So if the vendor did give me a $12 credit, I'm going to go back over to our vendor credit box down here at the bottom. I'm going to enter in my vendor credit number, the paid by, click on Save, then I'm going to click on Save again. It's asking me, are you sure that you want to save the invoice total of $12? I'm just going to click on Yes. And here's our finalized core return. Even though I showed it as a 2-step process, typically you would do that first step, then whenever you end up getting your vendor credits back, that's when you'd go back in, apply that vendor credit, make sure you got the full core amount, make sure that you got the full core amount back, and then that's when you can actually close out that core return. I'm going to click on Cancel and cancel again. That takes us back to our home menu. Fast Online actually does keep track of your tire adjustments, and actually will give you an adjustment manifest as well. Over in our left-hand vertical toolbar, I'm going to click on Inventory, and we have Adjustment Manifest. So we've got a couple of options. The first one is awaiting to be returned or items that have been returned. So these are all the tires that we have that we've done some manufacturer adjustments, product adjustments for in some way, shape, or form, and that we'll have to get these sent back out for credit. As these are the ones that are still waiting to go back, I'm going to go through and cherry pick our individual items that are going to be going back. And then I'm going to click on Finish. It's going to ask me who my vendor name is. In this case, it's going to end up being Tire Hub. Click on Select. And then when I click on Print Preview, it'll give me an Adjustment Manifest returned notification. I can email, print a copy. In this case, I'm going to click on Cancel. And now those have been removed from our Awaiting tab up at the top, where we just have 2 remaining only to Sancio. But in our Return tab, I can now see that I have all these items on return number 32. So that covers our inventory related items for today's training. I'm going to click on Cancel. I'm going to actually go back to our home screen. Now we're going to move on to some items related more towards our accounts receivable activities. First thing we're going to end up covering is going to end up being our AR inquiry. So if we want to know what our credit limit is for a particular customer, maybe to see how much money they have available to spend, from our home screen, I can click on Account Inquiry under Utilities, and this brings up our Account Inquiry screen. We can type in our customer name, I've got Burgess Ford, click on select, and it shows from our account inquiry screen that the credit limit is $2,000, and here's their available balance of $1,886.24. So with this customer, we have two invoices that are outstanding, both for $56.88, which leaves them with a running balance of $113.76. So the credit limit minus how much they have on their total balance gives an available balance. This is just an inquiry screen more than anything else. This will not allow you to go in and make any payments to that. This is just a quick recap for a particular customer. We do have hyperlinks down in our reference box here, and this will actually take us out to the invoices that were actually completed and are still open on this customer's account. If we do want to make any changes to a customer's account, I'm going to click on cancel to get us back to our home screen. But if we do want to make any changes to our customer's account, that actually will need to be done under maintenance, which is a sprocket here on our left-hand vertical toolbar, and then go up to customers. I'm going to type in the account name. And I see that we have multiple Burgess Fords. In this case, I know it's going to end up being the location that's in Des Plaines. I click on the little edit pencil. And here is where I can actually go in under our account information tab and adjust any type of dollar amounts that they have available to spend. So right now their credit limit's $2,000, and maybe they're requesting an additional $1,000 because they're starting to purchase some more items from us. So we can update their credit limit here. Credit limit type, we've got amount restriction, COD, no credit, or unlimited credit. So amount restriction, what this means is this would restrict this customer to that hard $3,000 stop limit. If their credit limit was at $3,000 and their running balance is $2,800, and they had a $400 invoice, which would put them $200 over their credit limit, right now, because our credit limit percentage is set at 0, they would not be able to actually have that invoice close out because it would go over their credit limit. So that's what amount restriction does. And the credit limit percentage, if we wanted to provide a little bit of padding maybe onto this customer's account, I can put in a 10% overage. So in this example, because it's at $3,000 and I have a 10% overage, this in theory would give them a $3,300 credit limit. One quick note is if you have unlimited credit for a particular customer, you do have to have at least a number 1 in our credit limit box. If it's left at a 0 with unlimited credit, you'd not be able to close out any invoices to that customer. We have default AR terms. In this case, we only have net 30 set up, but we can set up additional AR terms. And our balance method, open order, balance forward, and then also too, if that customer is subject to finance charges or not. You could go through on a customer by customer basis and you can assign if that customer should have finance charges levied against them or not. Our statement frequency, we've got a handful of options to choose from here. In this case, this customer wants to have one every 2 months. And we have some other information here as well, their account balance. We cannot update that, but we're going to update that through a cash receipt, and then taking that cash receipt and applying it back over to their account. I'm going to click on cancel. But maybe as part of a deal that we have with this customer who's going to start purchasing some more stock from us, they want to have one of those invoices that's on their account written off because maybe they've contested the service that was done. We'll go through and create a credit memo to erase that one invoice from their account and have those dollars go back over to a bad debt account. I'll click back on our home menu. Now I'm going to go down to our accounts receivable. Then we have two options. We have a credit memo or a debit memo. So for the one customer that we just looked up, I'm going to create a credit memo to their account to wipe off one of those invoices. And they're in the customer name. Choose the correct customer. And here are the two invoices that they have right now on their account. So I'm going to take this one that was on 10/18, and this is what I'm going to actually write a credit to take this one invoice charge off of their account. Put in a document date and a document number and the total value. I'm going to take this first invoice of $56.88, which is going to be the total value. If there were any tax, we could enter that in here. So the next thing I need to do is add in a general ledger code. I need to assign where this $56.88 is going to be going towards. My general ledger code I'm going to confirm the code, and here's my provision for bad debts. Right now, we've got an amount due of $56.88. If we were working on multiple invoices and we didn't specifically want to pay off an individual invoice by invoice, we could click on Auto Allocate. And what that would do is it would automatically go pay the oldest invoices first. And then if there's any remainder left over, it would pay that as a partial payment back on to a newer invoice. I'm going to put in my payment field that I'm going to pay my $56.88 that I have entered up here. I'm going to pay that against this particular invoice. I could put in a note here if I wanted to. If I click on Notes down at the bottom, click on Save Again, that'll finish out our credit memo, and it will give us a credit memo printout. I'm going to click on Cancel. So now the only thing that I have remaining on this customer's account is going to be this other charge for $56.88 that was on 10/19. The other invoice that was paid off was actually on the 18th. And if we want to confirm that that's now truly removed from their account, I can click on Cancel, go back over to Account Inquiry, and we can see here was our invoice that was on the 18th for $56.88. And here is the credit memo that we entered in for $56.88, which leaves our total balance of $56.88 where it was previously $113.76. So that's doing a credit memo. And the debit memo is pretty much the exact same way. From our accounts receivable menu, I'm going to click on Debit Memo. And the only thing that's different with our debit memo is we don't show any of the pending invoices that have been charged on their account. So I would just enter in the customer information, the document date, the document number, any terms if there were any, what the value is, assign a general ledger code, and then that would actually put that amount onto that AR customer's account as a debit memo. So that covers credit and debit memos. I'm going to click on Cancel. And while we're still on our accounts receivable screen, we're going to cover cash posting. So under our ROA, or received on account, we've got a couple of options: batch cash posting and then cash posting. I'm going to go with cash posting because our customer Burgess actually wants to pay off that remaining invoice of $56.88, which would leave their account balance at zero. I'm going to choose their correct customer, click on Select, and now it shows that our total balance is $56.88, and they ended up writing us a check, clear off their account. So through here, we're going to go through and enter in our payment date and a payment reference. So this could end up being the check number and what's the total payment amount. So in this case, it's going to be $56.88, which gives us an unallocated amount. That unallocated amount could be automatically distributed against this using our auto allocate, or if we want to pick and choose individual lines, if there were more invoices that were on the customer's account, I could go in and specifically put in a payment against that. So here's our outstanding value of $56.88, the original value. If it was partially paid, we'd have this is basically the amount due for this particular invoice. But I'm going to type in our payment amount here, which then removes the unallocated amount from $56.88 back to zero. Then I'm going to click on Save. It's going to ask for a terminal since we're bringing money in. Click on Select. What was the method of payment? It's going to be check. I'm going to click on Save. What was my check number and the authorization number? Details from the bank. In this case, check number was 5614, and the authorization number I got back from the bank. Click on Save. And here's our cash posting confirmation. So just to confirm that the cash posting and the application went through, I can go back over to our account inquiry. And we can see that their total balance is zero. Through the account inquiry, we can see our credit memo, our cash posting that we just ended up doing, and we can now see that their total balance is zero. I'm going to click on Cancel, and that'll take us back out to our accounts receivable. As we're getting into our end of month, I'm going to go through and actually show a couple different things related to finance charges and statements. Before we generate any statements, we would need to actually go through and run finance charges first. This will actually go through, calculate the finance charges that are due on a particular customer's account, And in our example here, our demo system is not set up to run finance charges. But what we would want to do is if our finance charge was to be on a particular date, let's just say the 26th is when we run our statements, I would want to run our finance charges as of the 26th. If I did have any customers that would end up showing here, it would give us any time that there was a last finance charge applied, a store location number, the customer name, what their balance is, and what that finance charge would be. If you did want to go through and actually apply that finance charge over to the customer, we would end up having a little square box here, a little tick box in our apply column, which we would apply that over, then click on save, and those finance charges would actually be applied back over to our customer's AR account. Again, since our system is not set up to run finance charges, I wanted to at least walk through the process and let you know that we do need to calculate those finance charges before we do generate our statements. I'm going to go ahead and click on cancel. And now I am going to generate our statements. So again, we're still into our accounts receivable menu. I'm going to click on generate statements. And we do have a few options to choose from. Sort sequence, the default is customer number. And if we wanted to run the statements from a particular starting customer number to an end customer number, we could enter those here if we wanted to. If we leave these blank, it's just going to run these for every customer. Our statement date, I'm going to put in our date that we're actually going to use this to calculate out our owed amounts. And our aging, a default is our transaction date, or we could use the due date. We're going to leave this for our transaction date. And we do have an option in our accounts of all accounts. Maybe we just want to use our printed accounts, our email accounts. Maybe we want to separate those out for some reason. We could if we wanted to. I'm just going to leave those for all accounts. And do we want to only have past due statements go out? Do we want to have any zero balances also print out? Maybe for a little bit of a review on our side. Don't select transactions after a statement date. Maybe we don't want any transactions that ran after the 26th. And our statement frequency. So most of my customers here in our demo system are either going to be a monthly or a bi-monthly, but you can click on select all. And what are your customer types? Maybe you want to only run these for retail customers, which would be a type 2. I can click on select all, and I've got some different options here. So display summary, view statements, and generate statements. If I click on display summary, what that will do is it's going to tell me that I would end up having 27 customers with a balance of $3,710.98, which is comprised of 68 transactions. So this is just a summary more than anything else. If I click on View Statements, it's to show me what my statements are going to look like and to the particular customer. In this case, this first one is to Norman Owens. So I could email these to myself if I wanted to. Go ahead and click on Print. I'm going to click on Cancel. Now that's just viewing the statements. That's not actually generating those. So as part of our customer set, which is covered in a different course, we can actually set up statements to automatically email out or to automatically print based off of a particular customer. But for these to actually be generated, we need to click on Generate Statements. And it's going to give us a warning box stating that the statements will be generated, archived, and emailed out to those customers that we have selected to have an email statement go out to them. And that a notification will be issued in the messages menu when the process is complete. Do you wish to continue? I'm going to say yes. Originally, we had 27 different statements that were going to go out, but now we only have 19 because these are the ones that are actually selected to be printed. So that leaves us with 8 that we're going to be emailed out to our customers. Click on Cancel, and then Cancel again. Okay, I'm going to go back over to our home menu. The next thing we're going to review is going to end up being our cash management. So this is basically our end-of-day process within Vast Online. And from our home screen under Utilities, we have Cash Management. In our Cash Management screen, you can end up seeing various items. These are all calculated amounts of items that we've either brought in through an invoice, through an AR charge. So we've got $1747.80 in cash. AR, we've got $5706. Credit cards, $1486.02. And then checks, we have $306.88. So this is basically our cash countdown for the day. We can run bank nows multiple times for the day, which that allows us, if we ended up having a large cash amount come in, we can actually take that money over to the bank. So these are all expected amounts. The only things that we need to really enter in outside of our credit card and our AR is going to be how much we actually have in cash and then in checks. Over on the right-hand side, this is going to be our cash countdown. So it's not going to be that I have $100 in $20 bills, because that thinks I have $2,000 now. This is just the count. So if I have 5 $20 bills, that will give me $100. I don't have a discrepancy here on the right-hand side, so that shows that my cash count is correct. And the only item that remains with the discrepancy is going to be our checks. So if we enter our check amount, so I don't have a discrepancy at this point. I do have my cash payout here that was system generated for some previous payouts that we've done for today. And it would calculate out an expected total and then how much I entered. So at this point, I've got everything 100% spot on. My account is correct. So I click on Bank Now. And here's my cash management report. So our method of payment, cash, AR, credit card, and check. Our float of $150 is how much we normally have in our cash register, which is a system entered value. This is how much we had until minus our float. So this $1597.80 would be the amount of cash that I would actually have deposited for the day along with our checks. You can always recall this report through Audit Trail, which we'll cover next, but you can print a copy off for your records or send an email if necessary. The last item we're going to cover is going to be our Audit Trail reports. I'm going to click on Cancel. Next, we're going to go take a look at our Audit Trail reports. So underneath our report menu are 3 vertical bars here on the left-hand side. Underneath Transaction Audit Reports, then we have Audit Trail, a daily business summary, and a month-to-date summary. If you want to recall anything from a specific date, you can click on Audit Trail, then Run Report. We have a couple of options, whether we want to have this run to a PDF or over to a CSV to be able to open in Excel. I'm just going to run it to a PDF. And here's our audit trail. This will give us all activity for any items on a specific date. So in this example, we have some invoices with the INV. We have some product adjustments. We have some purchase orders, some returns. Here's our goods received notices, and it just gives us a complete total for the date. If we have any questions on whether an invoice actually finalized, we can always run our audit trail report to ensure that that invoice shows up. If the invoice in question is not on our audit trail report, it has not been finalized. Click on Cancel. So that's our audit trail report. Next one over is going to be our daily business summary. And it's going to ask for the location and the date. I'm going to run report. So this provides a snapshot of our day. How much money was actually deposited. Maybe some quick deposits. Maybe we had some ordinate amount of cash that we wanted to take over to the bank. We have some payment information here, whether it's credit cards, accounts receivable. And also, too, gives us a little bit of a breakdown of our sales details, any fees that were assessed, taxable, non-taxable sales, deliveries on the account of Goodyear or delivery receipts, and store-owned or company-owned vehicle transactions. This can be recalled at any point for a specific date. Just need to enter in the location and the date under your daily business summary. And one last item related to our audit reports. It's actually going to be under our maintenance menu. And scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we have a security audit trail. Again, depending on your menu configuration and password access, this audit trail or the security audit trail will give you all types of information of what's going on in your store for a particular date or a range of dates. So through here, I can enter in dates and maybe look at specific categories. Maybe whoever did the banking for that date, cash book activities, if users were disabled, any documents that were scheduled, logins, logouts, etc. So if we go take a look at invoice activities for the month of May, I can go through and see that this employee number created these invoices over to these customers. If I wanted to go look at a specific employee, I could do that through here to help narrow down our list. But the security audit trail provides a snapshot of some of the activity related to your business. And that concludes Point of Sale Session 3.